Okay, so we talked about drop, cover, hold on. Of course, the main action that we advocate through Great Shakeout Earthquake Drills. Just kind of go over a lot of basics about it, but then also some research evaluation that's come out that I didn't share earlier. Of course, Shakeout is about practicing self-protective actions. We say shorthand, drop, cover, hold on, but it really is all of the different ways that in situations you may find yourself. This year, everybody all together, 10:20 on 10:20 a.m. That's the date of this year's Shakeout, always the third Thursday of October. If you ever get that question, it was designed so that schools could always participate. That was a date they chose. I want to acknowledge the supporters of Shakeout over the years. FEMA has been the kind of primary national supporter, allowing us to expand Shakeout from its origins in Southern California in 2008 to really almost every state across the country has participants now. We have some official regions in many parts of the country in every territory as well. The CEA, California Earthquake Authority, has been a strong supporter of Shakeout in California. Through its advertising that it does, adding in Shakeout messaging, doing specific Shakeout messaging each year, in a variety of other activities that they have done in support of that. There's really two parts of FEMA, I should say, both the FEMA mitigation under the NEHRT program, as well as FEMA individual community preparedness under the America's Preparathon program. So those two parts really working together. California Office of Emergency Services has been really key. Of course, NSF and USGS also support SCEC, and so SCEC's kind of the global headquarters of all this. That adds in. I've added in the Central United States Earthquake Consortium as a key partner and supporter too. They manage both the Central U.S. and Southeast regions. It's about 22 states total of Shakeout, so it's a really big lift in supporting all those states there. I want to mention America's Preparathon. Shakeout's a major activity of it, and we really are working together to promote people practicing taking actions, doing drills, other aspects of preparedness. We just had that National Preparathon Day, ready.gov/prepare. It's where you can learn about. There are a lot of great resources for multiple hazards there. Of course, Shakeout was created 8 years ago. We thought it was going to be 1 year, a one-time event, and we'd be done. And immediately afterwards, we started hearing, what's the date of next year? And from Northern California, they wanted to be involved as well. We really have been working hard to really base Shakeout from the start on social science research, this basic aspects of, getting people to be hearing from multiple sources in multiple forms, but it's consistent messaging, seeing people like themselves taking action to get prepared, getting people to talk with each other. Of course, earthquakes get people to talk with each other. And, what have you done? This is what I've done. How did you do it? How much did it cost? But we don't want to plan for earthquakes in order to do this type of motivation. So the Shakeout was designed to be that. And then also really key when we talk about the consequences of disasters, also include in that same message how to avoid them, not just be doom and gloom, but also to talk about how to reduce that. So the mission really has become everyone everywhere should know how to protect themselves during earthquakes. We also agree that people should know how to protect themselves from other hazards, but Shakeout's mission, of course, focus on earthquakes. And, so here's the map of the country. Now, there are a lot of people here who, this certainly is not just a couple of us here at USC, making it all happen. If you're involved with the funding for, support of, the outreach for, the recruitment for Shakeout, would you please stand up? And there's a lot more people here who aren't standing, who are involved in some way. There really are. I can see those of you who are involved. Monica Rusich, why didn't you stand up? You're promoting Shakeout. A lot of you, and it really makes a difference. This really is not something that is a central campaign. It was designed from the start to let it go and let people do things with it, and that's why it was a success. We didn't hold on to it and try to control it too much. So there's the growth. And yes, we got to 43 million people because we're starting to tap into other activities that other countries are doing, annual earthquake drills around the world, creating a kind of a shared network of best practices. The website, really key, of course, shakeout.org. You go there, you can link into all these separately customized web pages for each Shakeout region. And that's what a lot of the support from FEMA allows us to do, is to provide that level so that people in Guam and people in Puerto Rico and people in the central U.S. and people in Yukon and Quebec in French, in New Zealand, we do all that work for them so that they feel like it's really theirs. California website is what I was showing there. People really like that they see themselves as part of Shakeout through the participation totals that we do, down through to the listing of their organization on the website. It's really amazing how when they don't see themselves where they thought they should be, often it's because they chose the wrong category and then they went and looked in a different place. They're really wanting to have that corrected, and that's a lot of the work that we do to support that. And we have heard stories, people saying, I haven't been able to get my business to do anything for preparedness for years. I showed them all the other businesses in our county that are involved, and that got them to take action. That got the business to, the ownership of the business to say, yes, let's do this. Mentioned Canada, 3 provinces. New Zealand also just participated. They're kind of on a every 3-year time frame. It's a huge national major event when it happens in New Zealand. Of course, it's a smaller country, but they really take it on in a big way. We do have a website in Spanish basically for all regions. So if you're a Shakeout coordinator and you get a question about the Spanish, shakeout.org/Espanol is where you should refer them to. Japan manages their own Shakeout website, and it's spreading across Japan in interesting ways that we didn't think that. We thought they had it really handled. But there they say, no, we really haven't been doing as comprehensive and multi-sector and such campaign as here. A lot of new regions coming in, interest from around the world over the last couple of years and coming up. A lot of resources that we provide, posters and flyers and drill manuals for different types of groups that help people who haven't done a drill before take action. A lot of materials that we're distributing. With the support from Dr. Michelle Wood at Cal State Fullerton, we've been analyzing and running surveys each year. We have a participant survey we've been doing, and we're analyzing that data. I just want to share some of the results. We're really happy that people find that they really like the participation. They like the website. They find it useful, that they're saying it's helping them get prepared for earthquakes. They're learning how to protect themselves, that they would recommend it to their family and friends. It's something like 90%, so we like to say, 9 out of 10 Shakeout participants would refer Shakeout to their family and friends. Sounds like a commercial coming up. And that the messages that we work hard on getting out, not just talking about what to do to protect yourself, but also other information about preparedness, not even about earthquakes, but we're sending that out, and we customize those for each region. People plan to participate year after year, and what's really great about that is this one. Here's an example story. So past 2 years, this is a community college in Mississippi, not a big earthquake region really. Past 2 years, they had one instructor in one class do earthquake drills. She talked to the administrators. This year, they're going to have 6 campuses do full exercises. They're going to have training sessions for their campus community. They're going to open it up to the general public. They're going to test their communication system. A lot of colleges do that. And emailing out, and you can see the change. From last year, 32 people, this year, 19,000. And that's really what happens. We didn't go and tell them or invite them to do that. That's self-organizing. And then they're going to tell other community colleges in that region. It's really how it's worked from the beginning. It's really remarkable. We have a lot of information coming out on what people are reporting on their outcomes of not just that they're practicing more about how to protect themselves, but all these other factors here. It varies. And this is, if you can tell, the darker color is saying this is their reporting. This is what we did because of Shakeout. And of course, they're also doing these actions for other reasons too. So we're really starting to look in, okay, how do we tweak our message to maybe if these things we consider as more important, how do we improve those, our messaging about them? Also, for organizations and education, what they're doing in terms of their outcomes in similar ways, and also the improvements they're making overall. Unfortunately, the lowest one here, 5% devoting more funding. That we don't expect that to happen maybe as easily, but of course they're developing their overall preparedness. Qualitatively, we're really starting to look into, we asked a couple open-ended questions in what they're saying. That the schools are really needing to, how do we get more buy-in from our administration and the teachers to participate? How do we do that? How do we get new ways of engaging students on down? Some really great ways that they've been talking about how Shakeout benefits them as well. I like this one, that we found out that we need to separate 6th grade students from preschool while exiting the classroom building. You can only imagine what was going on with that. This one I think is really great, this comment. Basically, they're saying, we're a school and we've been doing this. We talked to our local emergency managers, expressed the importance of doing this, and now they're involved as well. So we're having cross-cultural, or cross-sector, maybe cross-cultural also, encouragement and recruitment for people to participate. Of course, there are limitations in this type of analysis. We're emailing people. They're probably getting the more motivated people to return. So Michelle Wood actually has a whole plan that we're going to be implementing of doing, inviting people to do this type of analysis, to take the survey going forward. So a random sample of the registrants. We are able to track participation over time and the feedback that they're giving us in these surveys. This statewide survey is something for California, where right before Shakeout, we did a major survey of the whole state. We want to repeat that to see if the last 8 years have made a difference. And also, just to end, this really interesting aspect of earthquake early warning coming up, about how we're going to be able to connect in Shakeout, have it be maybe an annual test day where everybody is testing how they would respond when they actually get an earthquake early warning message. Follow us on social media, both on Facebook, Twitter, and many other channels, and register to participate in this year's Shakeout, again, October 20th at 10 a.m. And by the way, you can hold your drill any day of the year. Let people know that. The site now allows for that. So if schools are out or other aspects, you can't do that on that day. It is totally fine. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Program change. Unfortunately, Barbara Harrison couldn't be with us, but we are fortunate to have Tim Smale, the SVP of Engineering from the Federal Alliance for Safe Homes, Flash.
Great, thank you, Ines. I'm going to talk to you about another tool we have in our toolbox for outreach and education in the earthquake arena called QuakeSmart. This one here is aimed at small businesses and medium-sized businesses, and it's part of a series we're putting together on community resilience programs for these size organizations. Why are we targeting organizations like this and small businesses? These are some of the statistics that you'll see if you go and search for businesses that survive after a disaster. What a disaster costs a business on a daily basis that they're down. $3,000 a day for a small business, $23,000 for a medium-sized business. It's also important to look at the other things. 99% of small businesses account for the companies in the United States, and over 50% of the employees. So we're reaching out here to a targeted audience that really needs to hear this message. And this is a direct outcome of a part of the QuakeSmart inspection program that you heard about today from Chief Cozy at lunch, that they go out and also do inspections in businesses. We're providing a tool for them to leave with the businesses, but also the opportunity then for the businesses to self-help and do this themselves. The little bit of history behind this, as they mentioned today, FEMA has had a QuakeSmart program for a while. All that we have put in the QuakeSmart Community Resilience Program comes from the documents that already exist. So FEMA P811, E74, everything we do has a technical basis for it and is a proven mitigation method that works. So as they go into this document, they're going in there with the knowledge and understanding of what we're telling them is good information based on solid research. You'll see that all the folks sitting here next to me are on this list, and many others in the audience of the reviewers and contributors that helped put this together. So it's quite an amazing team of people that we worked with to put this together. What does the program aim to do for small businesses or organizations? It gives them a set of tools to really do three things. They have to identify their risk. What does an earthquake mean to me? What in my business is at risk? And we'll go into a little bit of detail in a few minutes about each of these. It gives them their tools to develop a plan then, based on what they find during the assessment, and come out of that with a toolkit or a plan that they can use to go forward and take action. And then we also give them the opportunity to be recognized. We're asking them to step up. If you're going to do this, let us recognize you. Let us get it out there to the community that you are doing something and taking a step forward to become a prepared business. We mentioned these three steps. One of the things that you'll see throughout the program as we talk about it here is that we've broken these things down into areas that a small business would be able to understand. We call these our S's, but they're really, in the planning side, there's space. Look around you. This is the look up, look down, look around, but in a business sense. Look at your systems that support you. Look at your structure, and then look at your staff. What do they need? And how would an earthquake or a disaster affect them in each of those areas? And then we ask them to complete a mitigation and preparedness plan to support those areas that they need it, and then take action. So step one, identify your risk. We've created a scenario. It's a very short scenario where an earthquake comes, your building gets yellow tagged, you're down for a few days. We ask you 13 questions. We're trying to get them to think. It's an awareness. If this happened to you, would you be able to make payroll if you're down for 3 days? What happens if 50% of your goods are destroyed? Do you have a plan? We're trying to get them to think. And when I tell you that this assessment is based on a very, very detailed, long assessment, widowed down to 13 questions, there's a lot of science behind that as well. They're coming out of that with a yes, no, and everything they answer no to, I'm not prepared, goes into the next step. Develop a plan. We walk them through the S's. These tables are all in the toolkit, which I'll show you where to download later. It's a executable PDF form that you download and can fill out right there on the form. So we start with the staff. Do you have plans in place? Have you done employee training? Are you registering for the Great Shakeout? Got that in there for you, Mark. You're welcome. Do you have emergency kits? These are the things we're looking at for a staff. And then we also have a reference guide in the program that gives them the information. We're just not telling them to build a kit. We're showing them where to go and get the information on how to build a kit and do it right. Same for space. Look around you. What can fall over? What do you need to mitigate? And then we're also telling them exactly how to do it. Same for systems. Systems is a little bit different. Some of these you can do it yourself. Some you need a professional. We're telling them here's what you can do it yourself. Here's where you need a professional. And again, if you're hiring a professional, you still want to make sure they're doing it right. And then lastly, in the S's, to start with, is structure. Look around at your building. These are some of the things that fall under structure. Make sure you're open for business. We've added a new component here recently. That's be of service. If you do all these other things, you're going to be up and running after the disaster, and guess what? You can be of tremendous service to your community. So here's some things you can do to be of service to your community after the disaster. And again, we're giving you more ideas, showing you where to go get it and how to do it. And then lastly, once you've done this, stand up and be recognized for it. The guide, the program, when you download it, contains the forms you need to fill out, tells you exactly what you need to do. You get in there, you fill it out, you show that you've done some mitigation. Now, we don't ask you to do everything. We're not asking you to mitigate at one time your entire structure and hit a home run. We're asking you to get a base hit a single, start the process, and be recognized for taking those steps to start the process. We all know the benefits that come with that, because not only do they come if you're a business, they also come, a lot of them come if you're just a private citizen in your home. But we also offer some things that they can use then to display that they're moving along this spectrum to be a business that's prepared. So here's how you participate. QuakeSmartCommunity.org. Download the PDF form. Very simply follow the 3 steps. I'd like to real quickly mention here that throughout the year, our team sitting here in Flash goes across the country. We do workshops called QuakeSmart Workshops, where we go out, we invite small businesses into the community. We partner with the community to do that. We bring in the small businesses and we work through these programs, teaching them how to do this, leaving them with these resources and also contacts to be able to get this done. I want to end with the spotlight on the success we've had. A lot of people out there doing this. Some of the businesses are opting not to be recognized, and that's okay. But one group that is being recognized are the Oak Park Unified School District. They have mitigated 8 schools and their school's office. So they are our first, last fall, they were our first set of businesses to be recognized with the QuakeSmart success. These are our partners, plus all those others sitting here that are have technically reviewed things for us, have brought businesses to the workshops, and are part of the community. So we'll be taking questions at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. And last but not least, we have Janelle Maffei, and she's the Chief Resiliency? Chief Mitigation Officer with the California Earthquake Authority. Thank you.
All right. Got mitigation groupies. So taking it to the street, one house at a time. So I work for an insurance entity that thinks of things in portfolio. And as a structural engineer, having worked in consulting for my entire career, I think of things as one house at a time. And really, it's an amazing job to be able to do this for the state of California. So California's earthquake challenge, most Californians live within 30 miles of an active fault. It's not if, but when. 99% chance of a really damaging earthquake in the next 30 years somewhere in California. So Glenn went through who the CEA is, and all I want to do is recap a little bit of that and show you why an insurance entity is meddling in mitigation. How's that? 1984 legislation, you write a homeowner's policy, you must offer earthquake insurance. Northridge earthquake insurance companies leaving. Publicly managed, privately financed, CEA policyholders just under 1 million. And this is the important part here. Strategic plan is educate, mitigate, and insure. So let me show you how mitigation is wrapped up into all of this. So in addition to creating the CEA to overcome this insurance catastrophe that was happening after the Northridge earthquake, the people who were guiding the state of California said mitigation should be part of a public mission of the CEA. So they created a loss mitigation fund that's been contributed to since the inception of the CEA with 5% of investment income. In 2010, it was $25 million, and it's very important to note that this is intended for all Californians. So 2011, I joined the CEA, as I said, after a career as a consulting structural engineer, as the Chief Mitigation Officer. My position had to be created by the legislature. So CMO, sometimes I say, you know, that M could be for what's the word I was going to say? I don't know why I can't think of the word. When you put two people together, you're matchmaking. Goodness gracious. This is like I always say, yeah, my very best friend, and that's when I can't remember somebody's name. Matchmaking, because a lot of what we're doing here, we didn't create this, but we're putting the people who created amazing things together with the people who need it, or perhaps somebody who can bring additional value to it. So I flew by that. Educate, what's my risk? Mitigate, how do I reduce my risk? And insure, how do I financially protect my family? So educate. In California, where single-family dwellings are predominantly wood-framed, we have mild climate and we have tremendous access to timber, so wood frame. But no two houses are the same unless they're a tract home. And so where do we start? 1.2 million is the estimate that we have for this cripple wall kind of a house. And Ines helped us in putting together some workshops where we got professionals like yourselves to get together before I joined the CEA and say, this is where you should start. This is low-hanging fruit. So what is a cripple wall type of a house, and how does it fail? These are pictures from Napa. So this is 2014 Napa earthquake, moderate earthquakes, right at the cusp of you know, being a moderate to severe earthquake. This is cripple wall damaged. Typically, it's this older building. It's got that crawl space underneath that's supported on these spindly little 2x4, 2x6 studs, and is often, in fact, more likely than not, to not be anchored to the foundation. It can be dangerous cripple wall damage. We heard this morning about accessible programs. Well, obviously, this house, if you were a senior or disabled and your house has slid off the foundation, it's ruptured the gas main, and the porch is now blocking the front door, and I don't have a picture of the back, but you know, essentially it's 18 inches away from the steps. Obviously, this is dangerous damage. It's expensive damage. This house, actually, this is the morning of the earthquake, actually finally came down that 2 feet. She went to crowdsourcing. She did not have insurance nor any funding. People who are economically disadvantaged are harder hit. People who have not been able to maintain their houses, houses that are dilapidated perform even worse. And of course, they are the least prepared to be able to deal with this kind of damage. And then finally, from those lessons learned, Mitigation works. House on the right, blue house, was retrofitted. Guy came out of his door the morning of the earthquake. The yellow house, 1 year later, was still not reoccupied. And there's the roof line. These two houses were the same height. And so very, very damaging. I talked to the contractor of the yellow house. It was about $50,000 just to shore the house, to try and rebuild that foundation. So mitigate. Now we understand the risk. We understand the hazard is our location. The vulnerability is the kind of house. That's my risk. How do I mitigate that? So the CEA is engaged, as I said, so now it's the matchmaking, I remember the word again, matchmaking between FEMA and the CEA and the homeowners of California and the homeowners of the nation. This is even more important. With FEMA involved, we're really excited that this ATC 110 document will really be available to all United States citizens who live in these cripple wall kinds of houses and other kind of vulnerable wood-framed houses. And we are encouraging retrofits to code. Retrofits of single-family dwellings will always be voluntary. I really don't think anyone is ever going to step in and say that it's going to be mandatory. But we're trying to take a voluntary retrofit of the past, which meant that essentially a homeowner or a contractor really could do anything unless they damaged the home. And we were trying to elevate that to retrofits that are to code, to standards, so that we can take all the collective knowledge and build that into these retrofits. So we're encouraging these retrofits to code by creating guidelines that increase the number of prescriptive standards that we have to be used to retrofit. Prescriptive means you can do it as a do-it-yourselfer or a contractor without an expensive engineered solution. It's essentially pre-engineered. We're trying to apply engineering to really what are unengineered buildings. And so it's jointly managed with FEMA. Mike Mahoney is the FEMA side of the prescription. ATC 110 is developing prescriptive retrofit plans. Our next two building types, in addition to cripple walls, are houses that have living space over garage. Think San Francisco. It's the single-family soft story. And hillside homes. $3 million funded by the CEA's Loss Mitigation Fund. Very exciting project. Research. We're working on contracting with a consortium of universities to do research for over 3 years to quantify the damage reduction so that we can tell homeowners just exactly how much you're going to be saving by retrofitting, as well as we can inform this mitigation discount that we have. It's really exciting now to be up to 20%. We think it can go higher. Additional research. So very, very important that the idea here is to not only bring value to the mitigation side, but to the insurance side. And so we take this prototypical cripple wall house and we do research on it to quantify the damage. We're also doing research in Napa. We interviewed 600 homeowners online, and we went out and looked at their houses in a phase 2 with 50, and we'll be issuing a report this year. And finally, incentives. This is where things get really exciting. So we want to provide financial incentives for retrofits and insurance discounts for retrofits. Our 2016 incentive program is a continuation of a really exciting program that's managed by the California Residential Mitigation Program, because Chief Mitigation Officer is just not long enough. We have to have these really long acronyms. Essentially, it's a joint effort between the California Earthquake Authority and the Governor's Office of Emergency Services in California. Very exciting, and we're very happy to announce that our CEA board has approved the risk reduction program that the CEA is going to do. And so I'll tell you how many houses these two amazing programs are going to do. So the Joint Powers Agreement between Cal OES and CEA created CRMP, and our first incentive program, Earthquake Brace and Bolt, provides up to $3,000 to California homeowners who qualify, meaning they have to have that cripple wall kind of a house. They have to do the retrofit with a permit in accordance to a code. Very, very important. We're promoting code retrofits. We have information on our website for homeowners, contractors, building officials. We have a contractor directory. They take FEMA training and they can be listed on our website. We find the majority of homeowners utilize this contractor directory. And then here's the retrofit. So they have to show us before and after pictures. So I finally have a really fantastic catalog of photos of this kind of retrofit. So here's a classic before. There again is that crawl space. There's those spindly little 2x4s with just the original finish on them. And here they are with, it's like plywood, it's called oriented strand board. It has the same strength, and this house has also been bolted. So now the house is secured to its foundation, and the spindly little part around the crawl space is now stiffened so that it won't topple off of the foundation. And when you have very, very short walls and you can't get in there with a rotohammer to install an anchor bolt, you can use these foundation plates that go on the side. We're in 18 cities and 100 zip codes. We selected these cities throughout California by taking USGS maps and taking US Census data and putting together all the zip codes in the state ranked by risk. So it's 50% their location, 50% high concentrations of older, vulnerable homes. And we came up with, and I'd like to just, in the interest of competition, my zip code came up number 2. Woo! I live literally right on the Hayward Fault. So earthquake brace and bolt is in 18 cities, and we hope with the risk reduction program when we roll out, we're actually going to be in very similar locations. We're going to be doing, here it is, we're going to be doing 1,600 homes with CRMP, and we can do, we think, as many as 5,000 homes with the risk reduction program. So here's this interesting and creative way to finance. We've got the $1.8 million from the CEA's Loss Mitigation Fund. The state of California stepped up in our first real year to bring us $3 million to do an additional 1,000 homes. That's out of the state budget. And we also received $300,000 in a FEMA hazard mitigation grant, not grant, but grant program in Napa. I always throw little spelling errors in there to see if I'm awake. And the risk reduction program is $12 million from the CEA's budget. So third quarter 2016, we'll be in 5 zip codes north, 5 zip codes south for the risk reduction program. It'll be the same $3,000, but now it's policyholders. And so it's another way to get Californians retrofitted, and they have to have had 3 years of tenure with the CEA. How do I financially protect my family? So Glenn gave you all the insurance stuff. I'm going to use the same pictures of the premium calculator, but now I'm talking about mitigation. So once again, you have to offer earthquake insurance, but now we have these exciting possibilities. In addition to additional deductibles, is up to a 20% hazard reduction discount. People can go online and they can play around with all these numbers and they can see, oh, if I mitigate my risk, if I mitigate this cripple wall deficiency, this is the savings that I can get. And here's another opportunity to provide a financial incentive. And we've got some great support system behind that, so they can call and find out if they want to know what exactly is mitigation, what's a retrofit, how do I do that, how do I find a contractor. So here's some really exciting programs that we're doing and funded in unique ways. It's really, the seed is that loss mitigation fund. It was the wisdom of people in 1996 when they created this organization. It's the dedication of Glenn Pomeroy and our board and the hard work. I'd like to acknowledge Sherry Aguirre and Marianne Canoy, who work with me in mitigation. And I'll now turn it back to Ines, and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.